Welcome into a late night edition of Jags Now presented by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Colin Brown, and on today's show, or tonight's show, depending on where you're watching, or when you're watching, I should say, we're going to be talking Liam Coen and James Gladstone, what they had to say at the NFL owners meetings that are taking place in Phoenix, Arizona today, tomorrow, through April 1st. And there's some, interesting tidbits, some interesting nuggets that they had to say in terms of just speaking to NFL media members. And I kind of wanted to get my thoughts, my reaction to those kind of news tidbits and kind of give you a full breakdown on today's show. But guys, if you want Jaguars, news, rumors, you know the drill. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. Your number one stop shop for all things Jacksonville Jaguars. We got you covered here on the channel. Make sure you guys subscribe. All right, so the first bit of news that I wanted to talk about, and I apologize for keep scratching my nose, is talking about Travis Hunter. He was on the thumbnail, and James Gladstone, Liam Coen, more specifically Liam Coen, had this to say in terms of Travis Hunter ahead of the 2026 NFL season. And I'm just going to pull up a couple of tweets from Ryan O'Halloran, who does a really good job covering the Jags for the Florida Times Union. And he had this to say in terms of, kind of quote tweeting Travis Hunter. Liam Coen kind of spoke about him in depth. So here's what Coen had to say in terms of Travis Hunter. It's an unspoken understanding that there are some depth things at cornerback that he can come in and help us out. The focus more so has been, how are you feeling today? We have not dove into the specifics on scheduling and role. And, this kind of leads into the conversation that we've had throughout the offseason that was kind of confirmed by Gladstone and Liam Coen that they want Travis Hunter to play more of a cornerback role in terms of, next season. It just kind of seems to fit what this team needs more. It may fit more so in what Travis Hunter could excel at here at the NFL level. And I think it's the right move by Gladstone, Coen, and company to have him as just more of a offensive kind of, situational player versus a kind of every down player that some thought he could be at the NFL level. And look, in terms of scheduling and, how he's coming back off that LCL in his right knee from this past season, I think that it's going to be an interesting kind of scenario and just kind of how they deal with it and how they kind of go about it, because they obviously gave up a lot to go get Travis Hunter and, last year's draft, and they want to protect that investment, right? Like, they don't want to rush this back. They don't want to try to put Hunter in any sort of precarious situations, and I think Coen kind of illustrated that here with his quote saying, how are you feeling today? Like, that's been more of the focus, and that's what it should be, in my opinion. Coen was also asked if Hunter might be able to participate in OTAs. He said this, quote, "I don't know. I cannot say for certain. He's very well ahead of where he's supposed to be. I know the docs and the athletic trainers feel really good about him." So just kind of a positive update and everything in terms of Travis Hunter's kind of recovery off that LCL injury that he suffered during practice last season and ultimately had surgery. It was, I believe, November 11th, if I'm remembering correctly. And like we kind of mentioned, this is kind of something that's par for the course. Do not rush him back. Take all the time you need, Travis Hunter. You are a young, potential stud NFL athlete, whatever he decides to be, whether it is corner, which I think he will be, or if he does go the wide receiver route eventually during his NFL career. I think he's going to be somebody that we're going to be talking about for a very long time in the sport, but he's got to take care of his knee right now. And I just want to turn it over to you guys and get your opinion before I kind of respond to the OTAs comment. Will Travis Hunter be able to participate in OTAs? Just if you had to give a gut, guess right now as we're sitting here talking about it today on March 30th, type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'm going to say no, and the reason why I'm saying no is not something to sound the alarms like, this is a warring concern about Travis Hunter, but just based on everything that I've heard about Gladstone and Coen and the way they're going about, Travis and the way he's recovering and everything, they're playing this very cautiously, and as they should, right? Because he's going to be a very valuable asset for this team in 2026, alongside Monteric Brown, who they re-signed back. You're going to have Jordan Lewis back there in the slot. Those are going to be your three starters in the secondary. And I cannot wait to see what those guys do at full strength. And for that to be the case, you want to give Travis Hunter as much time as possible. And I think the Jags are smart in the way they're kind of just approaching and just kind of how they're dealing with it in terms of how they're handling it handling it in-house, So that was just kind of the more or less the kind of talk around Travis Hunter and, his schedule coming from knee injury. I do think that'll be an interesting timeline, though, because, if you think that Hunter is going to be one of those guys that can rebound quickly from this, he is a younger athlete, OTAs may not be out of reach, but I'm going to lean with no, just as the cautious option, not that he's scheduled to miss any time around that anytime soon. So also James Gladstone spoke during these NFL owner meetings, and he had more of the bigger quote around Anton Harrison, who it was revealed that Anton Harrison's fifth-year option will be picked up by the Jacksonville Jaguars, the former 2023 first-round pick out of the University of Oklahoma. He started all 48 games during his NFL career, and last season I felt like really put it all together. Just listing off his PFF grades here, 71.8 overall PFF grade, 75.6 pass blocking grade with a 64.4 run blocking grade. All those above average, if not really good numbers for Anton Harrison. Did have 6 penalties last year, which is not something you love, but is something that can be fixed. And did only give up 1 sack allowed on that right side, but I really do think the Jaguars are in a really good spot with both their tackles. I think that Cole Van Lanen, you get him locked in, kind of a diamond in the rough that you found. There's your kind of stud left tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence's blind side. Now you got Anton Harrison, who they're going to pick up his fifth-year option and potentially extend him here down the line, which we'll talk about here in a second. I just really like that once you have your kind of 2 bookends at tackle, there's not a lot of teams that can sit there and say, we feel good about our guys for the next 3+ years or so. And I truly think that the Jaguars are in that spot with Van Lanen and Anton Harrison. So I'd like to see where Anton Harrison goes from here. I think he's worthy of getting his fifth-year option picked up. Not only that, but also getting the eventual extension. We can talk about more in terms of numbers of what that could look like here on the show at a later date, but I think it's very deserved. I think Anton Harrison is one of the brighter right tackles in the National Football League, and this was really good news to hear. It was expected news by GM James Gladstone, but nonetheless, good to hear nonetheless. And in terms of extensions, Gladstone went to talk about Anton Harrison and also brought in a couple other interesting names that Jaguars fans have been wondering, can these guys get extensions here or not? Here's what Gladstone had to say. In terms of Harrison getting a contract extension, as a part of that exercised option, we'll have deeper conversations, basically alluding to the fact that, yes, they are having conversations with Anton about potentially extending him for the long term, but also picking up that fifth-year option, which is the smart way to do it, right? Because if you pick up that fifth-year option for a player that you feel like is going to be a part of your future, you then give them an extension, and then you can kind of prorate those years to where the cap hits aren't going to be something that's going to cripple you down the line. You saw the Seahawks do it with Jackson Smith and Jigba, where they pick up his fifth-year option, they give him that massive extension, but the cap hits for those numbers, even though he is the highest-paid wide receiver currently in the National Football League, he is not going to cripple them cap-wise because by the time those cap hits reach above kind of that threshold of like, how much are we paying here for this late in the contract, either A, the Seahawks could extend him again, or B, they could maybe look to move on from him depending on, where it goes from here, obviously. Anton Harrison, I think Gladstone's going to follow a similar model where you pick up the fifth-year option, you extend him for, I would assume, at least 4 years, maybe 5, depending on, where things sit. I do think a 4-year deal is probably likely, though. And you're able to prorate those years to where, once Anton Harrison gets to a later point in his career, you can decide, okay, do we want to pivot off this guy? Do we want to extend him again? Whatever the case may be, I think Gladstone's going to have really good business when it comes to Anton Harrison, so that's good to see. He also just said this in terms of conversations with Brenton Strange and Parker Washington, 2 offensive weapons that Trevor Lawrence and Jaguars fans are very familiar with. In terms about their possible extensions. Quote, we're on striking distance on some, and this also alludes to Anton Harrison as well, that they could be in striking distance. He didn't go in specific in terms of names, but at the end of the day, it takes 2 to agree on something, which is no shock, right? That we could see extensions be announced tomorrow. We could be even extensions be announced during this video recording, which I hope that doesn't happen, just from a content creator's perspective, but either way, we'll have you covered here on the channel. But I do think Brenton Strange and Parker Washington are 2 guys that are worthy extension candidates, along with Anton Harrison. And the Jags have just been really kind of quiet in terms of, potentially trying to get these deals done. So I'm kind of interested to see what those numbers will look like if and when those deals get done. But it is good to see that Gladstone just acknowledging, like, hey, these guys are a part of our future. Anton Harrison, Brenton Strange, Parker Washington. I feel really good, just, me personally, just kind of hearing this in terms of where those guys are at. And, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that, getting closer to the NFL draft, we don't see some buzz surrounding the Jacksonville Jaguars in terms of extension numbers being announced soon. I'm not going to say that I have any sources on that. My just gut feeling is that the Jaguars are looking to kind of make some moves here in terms of, cap space, because they still have to create cap space in order to sign their rookie draft class and also have some spending money during the regular season. A way you can create cap space is by extending guys. And I think those are three names that the Jaguars are going to look to extend here this offseason. And then kind of the final big topic that I wanted to discuss, just kind of going through, just making sure, to hit some kind of lower level stuff. Coen was, obviously praised the fact that they were able to retain both coordinators in Grant Udinski and Anthony Campanelli, saying it was really important not to have us to have to reteach systems and schemes and techniques. It will hopefully allow us to start a little faster this offseason, which obviously is huge, right? That continuity, that chemistry that you build with the coaching staff, you're able to retain those guys in the for this next upcoming season. It's only going to increase kind of, just the overall vibe that not only Udinski had in this kind of offensive system with Trevor Lawrence and the entire offense, but Anthony Campanelli, that turnaround for that defense was something that was one of the more under-talked about storylines during last season, and I think that was a really huge point. So obviously Coen mentioned that as well. And then Udinski also had this to say about, or Coen, Liam Coen had said this to say about Grant Udinski that I just wanted to highlight real quick. He'll probably do a little more in terms of the preseason game, calling plays and giving him more of those opportunities. I gave him one game last year and a little bit of Pittsburgh. This is kind of just something that Grant Udinski, I'm just going to let Jags fans know right now, enjoy him while you can, because he is an ambitious, young, smart offensive coordinator who I think has gained a lot of respect in his short time in the league, whether it's from, Liam Coen, Trevor Lawrence, to his days in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold, and even his time in Carolina. Like, he is a guy that is going to be a future head coach in this league, and the fact that the Jags were able to retain him, clearly Coen values him and is going to kind of give him more run, just, doing him a solid in terms of, getting him that experience of calling plays and giving him more opportunities. I really hope the Jags fans, the Jaguars are able to capitalize on him coming back this next season, but also just really enjoy the fact that you're going to get Grant Udinski for another season. All right, just wanted to highlight that. And then the last kind of point was something about Brian Thomas Jr., who we talked about this offseason with the Jaguars potentially trade Brian Thomas Jr. Those trade talks, those rumors were kind of just pretty much put to rest in terms of any potential gaining any legs by Gladstone during a kind of free agency press conference here recently. And then Coen spoke about Brian Thomas Jr. for the first time, kind of since all those trade rumors came out from SNY and whatnot. He had this to say about Brian Thomas Jr. This is a great opportunity for us to look at it with BTJ this offseason. There are true areas where we can improve. Let's go attack it with relentless pursuit and not worry about the results and what happened last year. Clearly acknowledging, right, that things didn't go to plan for Brian Thomas Jr., this offense, and their expectations of not only him, but how he would fit, this, that, or the other. And I think that Coen and this kind of coaching staff, front office, this team, is doing something that you don't see necessarily as often in the NFL at times. Granted, yes, he's a former first-round pick, but, if you struggle in the National Football League, I mean, NFL at times can stand for not for long, right? Like, you see teams kind of make these ruthless, calculated decisions to pivot off of guys, especially once you get a new head coach in, and if they don't necessarily see eye to eye. Coen and the Jaguars are really wrapping their arms around Brian Thomas Jr. and really just sitting there and saying, okay, we understand it didn't go to plan last year. Let's regroup. Let's try to, attack it this offseason and evaluate things from here, because we want what's best for you and we want what's best for the Jaguars. And I think it's really smart. And I think it's something that, will Brian Thomas Jr. be the wide receiver one this upcoming season? He's got all the talent to be, but Parker Washington ended the season the strongest. Jacoby Myers was this team's inarguably most experienced wide receiver after he was traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I just think that if you're Brian Thomas Jr., it's like, okay, you obviously want a successful NFL career. You want to, whatever your personal goals are, whatever your team goals are, whatever the case may be, they weren't met with what they were last year compared to what he was as a rookie. How do you attack it? You attack it, and he knows the status that he wants to get back to. Does he have the support? I think Liam Coen just kind of sitting there, and will Gladstone kind of just putting those trade rumors to bed, but also Coen sitting here and saying, look, there's sure areas we can improve. Let's go attack it with relentless pursuit. Like, we're in this together. I'm going to try to help you out. You're going to try to help me out. We're going to get the best of you this upcoming season. I just thought it was something that, again, you don't always see with NFL guys whenever they have a down season. It's like, maybe we do entertain things. From the moment they kind of took to the media with their kind of initial end-of-season press conference till literally today, they have made their point consistent. Brian Thomas Jr. is in our plans. We want to have what's best for Brian Thomas Jr., and we believe he can help contribute, be a big piece of the puzzle of this football team come next year. And I think that's only a great thing to hear if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. So let me know down in the comments section below. What's your confidence level in Brian Thomas Jr. this upcoming year? Scale 0 to 100 for me. 0 as in you are out on Brian Thomas Jr. You don't know why he's a Jacksonville Jaguar. You're just he's never going to be back in your mind. Like, he's just done. 100 being you have the utmost confidence that Brian Thomas Jr. will get things back on track for next season under Liam Coen. Drop me a number down below in the comments section. And without any further ado, guys, that is going to be the end of today's video. And appreciate you for sticking around with me throughout this entire video. Again, hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications for the latest Jags news and rumors. We got you covered here on the channel. And as always, Jags fans, we'll see you on the next one. Duval. Peace out, guys.